Hello Revit users and ambitious architects or engineers. Today we're gonna continue our family creation saga. So in the last video we talked about if or and if and statements. Today we're gonna jump to the family types phase-based elements. So now let's open up again family project, and this time we're gonna use first of all, let's go to the metric, because I am a European who is not based in Great Britain. And now I'm gonna check phase-based templates. So here it is, metric generic model phase-based, as well as it is quite often usable phase-based as well as line-based elements. Those two are pretty common for you to use in Revit. And if you're a structural engineer, most of the time you're also gonna create a structural framing templates here, beams and braces, and so on. So there's a bit of a difference between structural framing, beams and braces, between line-based elements, but we'll cover that in the future videos. Now let's go with the model phase-based elements. So now I'm going to create an element which will be based on the face of the host. So for example, if I'm going to create a wall and I want to add a certain element at the face of this wall, I'm going to use this template. Now let's open it up. And here the difference, you can see that it has already a host created in it, and we're gonna model on top of this face, right? So if you're gonna open up the elevation, you're gonna see that the reference level is on top of this host element in here. Okay, so now just simply let's create a let's open up first of all reference level plane plan, and let's create an extrusion. Let's say you can always set work plane. You can pick a plane, or you can use a name and use reference level. And let's create simple rectangle. Yeah, to create it more parametric, let's add before that some reference planes. So for the width, let's say depth, and for the depth, like this. As you know, we always want to create these parameters. It's kind of basic stuff that you are already familiar with. It's gonna be width, and it's gonna be depth. No, let's create it not depth but height. We're gonna create additional parameter for depth if we want to cut our host element to make a hole in it. So for that I'm gonna use a depth. Okay, now let's create an extrusion. As simple as that. Let's log them in to these reference planes. Let's go to the elevation view. Let's create additional reference plane for the height, probably. We can always rename the reference planes for the simpler future usage of these planes. Now let's check if all the parameters works the way it should. Wait a minute, where is the depth parameter? Width, height. Okay. And now let's use tab and select the reference level. Let's create additional parameter, which is let's say offset. No, it's better to be height of the element itself. Something like that. It really doesn't matter, actually. Just I want to make sure if it works properly. That's perfect. Okay. So now we have our face-based element created, and we're always gonna have this element on on our base. So for example, let's load it up into our project. And before we can use it, let's create a wall. Sorry about that, a wall. Here it is. Let's go to the 3D view. And now let's use our, you can place a component using it like this, or you can go through the project browser. And let's, it's nice that in this Revit 2024, they introduced this search possibility in the project browser. So I can simply drag it like this. And here you can see it uses the faces of my wall. You can add rotations, anything on using some kind of parameters. So that's the general idea how face-based elements works. And I'm going to introduce you how the voids works in Revit. So let's go back into the our family. And now instead of creating this solid over here, now let's make it as a void element that will cut our host itself. So to do that, let's go to the elevation view. Let's say let's delete this one, and just for the let's remove this constraint, just for the sake of easier explanation. Let's select this generic model, and let's change from solid to void. Here it is. Now let's go to the 3D view of it, and you can see this is the orange boundaries of our element created. It means that it is a void, but it's yet not cutting the geometry. So if you want to see if to cut it, you can press this cut geometry, select the host, and select the element you want to cut from. And now our void element cuts the geometry. So if you're going to load it up in the project, let's overwrite. Here you can see it makes the cuts of our geometry. Let's again add it up. This is the result. Another quite important setting for you that I would like to introduce you is cut with voids when loaded over here. So for the better explanation of it, let me modify a bit our family. So let's create an additional offset further of the host element like this. So now let's load it up into our project. Let's override the existing version, and for the sake of the better explanation, let's create additional elements. So let's say floor, and I'm gonna explain what you can achieve using that. Okay, that's perfect. So now, if I'm gonna place my family created, it's not creating a hole, right? So now I'm gonna go back to its family, and now I'm gonna create a cut geometry like this. Now if I'm gonna load it up, it will create a geometry cut in here. But for example, if I'm gonna add this element somewhere that I do have a couple of elements created, and I would like to have a cut for both of these elements, in this case wall and floor together. As you can see, I only have a geometry cut into the wall, but the but my element created is you can see where he is. He's in a depth of a floor. So that's where cut with voids when loaded is suitable. So for example, if I'm gonna press cut with voids when loaded and I uncut it over here, so now I will be able to make a cut manually into the project. So let's go to modify and cut the geometry and select wall. And now I can as well select the floor and use cut for both of these elements. So there's the result. If I'm not going to use cut with voids when loaded, then I will not be able to cut these elements using cut geometry setting. You see cut geometry, so I select the host element, but I'm not able to select the element. So this is general idea where you can achieve the best results using cut with voids when loaded. Because if you only use, let's say, cut geometry like this, so there's no difference if you're gonna use this one or not. Because here you can see, let's use it without it. Sometimes it happens. Let's uncut it and let's cut it again. Let's load the project. I'll write the existing version. So family. Here it creates the holes, right? Even though the cut with voids when loaded is not ticked. If I'm gonna tick this mark and I'm gonna use it, it will make no changes for that. Here you can see. So I hope that you got a basic idea how does it work and what kind of a complexity you can achieve using voids and solids and face-based elements. And yeah, we're gonna dig deeper into the family creation for the video. So subscribe, like, and we're gonna see each other.